This video is going to be a little bit more structured than my last ones. I actually wrote stuff down. It's actually in response to a YouTuber named Musings. Yesterday, whenever I was talking about the dilemma, and the guy asked me about the trilemma instead, and I said I'd never heard of that, it was because this guy on YouTube is actually the one who came up with it. It's in response to pretty much what I came up with yesterday. And it's interesting to me to note that multiple Christians have come up with this, that instead of morality just being what God says it is, or that it's moral and then God approves of it, as in it's something outside of Him that defines morality. Other people, including myself, have said that God's nature, who God is, His character, what it reflects, is actually what defines morality, is His nature. So this guy basically took that argument and said, well, wait a minute, that brings up another dilemma that you have to answer. And so I'm going to respond to that, hopefully briefly, right now. So basically in his video, he comes up with two questions that you must ask if you are going to hold that position. The first question he comes up with is, does God have control over His nature? And can He alter that? Can He alter His nature? The second question is, does His nature have control over Him? So it's an either or. Does God have control over His nature, or does His nature have control over Him? Basically, the problem with this is twofold. One, it's another false dilemma. And two, the second question is actually a straw man argument. The problem comes down to, what are we defining God as? And if you are a theist, if you are a Christian specifically, you define God as being an uncreated being, not a created being. He is the creator. There is a totally different subset for Him there. And so basically, the problem is that this guy comes up with is, well, if nature controls God, if His nature controls Him, then something other than God dictates what His nature is. That is something outside of Him. The problem is, He then ceases to become God. He then ceases to become the God we are talking about. So this question right here can be thrown out altogether, because it is a straw man arguing against a created God instead of what we believe and hold as a creator God. He ceases to become God, then He becomes a created. So that can automatically be thrown out because of that. Because if something outside of God controls Him, that's not God, it's what controls Him would become God. So that is not what Christians are arguing for. You can rest assured we do not believe in a created God. We believe in a creator God, that He was uncreated, that when the Bible says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, that's what it literally means. He has existed from infinity past to infinity future, the beginning and the end. John 1 attests to this about Jesus. So the problem with the first one, does God have control over His nature, and can He alter His nature, is the fact that Christians do not believe that God changes, that His nature is something you can bank on, that He keeps His promises. And there's something specific that you need to think about, and I'll give you one example of it. It's whenever Moses talks to God, who is in the burning bush, and asks, who shall say sent me? And God replies, I am. And that sentence alone right there, it doesn't even really make sense at first, unless you seriously start to think about the implications of calling yourself I am. It got Jesus in trouble. The reason that is so profound, just those two words, is because anytime you or I ever describe yourself, you have to say I am because. I am because of my parents. I am because of my evolutionary history. I am because of my influences, or what I have done, or you know, what my DNA has brought me into. I am because of something else. But when God says I am, He is simply stating a profound thing about His nature, which is the fact that He is not because of anything else. That He is, has always existed and always will exist. He doesn't change. And so it's not that He can't control His nature or His nature controls Him. It's just the fact that He has always existed as He has and always will. So this argument is profoundly wrong. It implies a straw man argument talking about a created being instead of an uncreated being. As such, I reject it completely.